Hi, Joan.
Hi.
Nice to have you. So we're going to go back to multi-platform stuff, but I want to start with the conversation with the digital video GRP.
Okay, great.
I would love for you to talk through that from comScore's perspective and sort of your point of view on that.
Okay, great. Well, for those of you not familiar with comScore, our tagline is analytics for the digital world. And so we have a long experience in measuring how consumers use the various digital platforms, whether it's PCs, whether it's tablets, whether it's smartphones, and now in the truly multi-platform world, we're including television measurement in that, and most recently we're doing a big project with ESPN to even include radio. So it's really this 5 platform measurement solutions. And the idea here is that, when you're doing your analytics on the digital platforms, cookies don't buy products, people buy products. And so our job is to take all of the massive data that's collected from the analytics kind of approaches that are available out there and translate them into what actual people do. So, one of the issues that's been talked about lately in the industry is, the online GRP. Right? Should we use a GRP to measure the digital world? And but there's really a second question there that is, does the online GRP measure what we need it to measure? So there's really 2 parts to that question. And I'm going to kind of tackle the second part of it first, because if the online GRP doesn't mean the same thing as the TV GRP, then you're not really going to be able to use it to compare the 2 media. And that's really one of the big challenges facing the industry. There's an initiative called the 3MS, Making Measurement Make Sense. The ANA, the IAB, lots of industry organizations are concerned about digital measurement, and they want it to be more useful, they want it to be easier, they want it to be more understandable. And that goes to really one of the issues with an online GRP is that in the digital world, you need to be sure that your advertising can be seen by the consumer, that the advertising isn't sort of below the fold. That did the consumer scroll down? Did the ad render along with in time for the consumer's experience of that web page or that video content? So there's a lot of questions as to whether we can really compare. Remember, television is an opportunity to see measure.
So, Joe, may I dissect this a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I think we're getting into some really interesting territory. So,
right.
So first of all, when we talk about a digital GRP, what I'm hearing, especially with the 3MS project and knowing what that is, because a lot of that was driven by issues with display, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And counting inventory that was never seen, was below the fold, et cetera, right? You're talking about a GRP that is broader than just online video.
Right. I'm talking about a GRP used for the comparison of the 2 platforms, no matter what the advertising type is.
So could you take us through how the actual measurement or establishment of a GRP versus, an audience rating, a traditional audience rating scale on television, like the actual granular means by which you would go about in measuring an audience online? Well,
a GRP is a very simple metric. It's very useful and it's very familiar to people. And it's essentially, if you have a 300 GRP campaign, one way to think about that is you've reached 100% of your target audience 3 times. Right? And if you add digital to that platform and you achieve another 50 GRPs, you've reached 350, you've reached 100% of your audience 3.5 times, right? So it's a really convenient measure to use across media. The challenge is it doesn't really tell you what the benefits of the digital part of the campaign are, right? So most marketers and their agencies are looking for specific things. That's why they're adding digital to the campaign. They're looking to reach additional people, new incremental reach.
But do we historically, from a media perspective, define and slice and dice audiences the same for television versus digital?
We don't historically do that, but I think there's a demand out there, especially in the online video space, as online video has grown enormously over the past, few years. Marketers really want to take advantage of it. And to make that easy, they want a baseline metric to compare television to online video.
What do you think is going to be, where do you think this sort of, if GRP becomes a standard by which media is acquired and procured in digital? Is it going to be the digital guys wanting to tap into TV dollars? Is it going to be the TV guys to be able to wanting to mark territory in digital? Or is it going to be media agencies and advertisers wanting an apples-to-apples ability to evaluate their investments? Where do you think the biggest screams are going to come?
I think the biggest are coming from the advertising agencies wanting a convenient way to compare the media. Then I think that there are that the television folks want an easy way to understand what's happening in digital and TV. You know, there's still a lot of silos operating out there, and I think digital can also benefit from the use of a GRP. But again, it doesn't tell the whole story. It doesn't tell you how much additional audience you're getting. That's new audience that isn't going to be reached on TV. It doesn't tell you the cost effectiveness of the medium. You know, it doesn't tell you about the, kind of the reach curve.
Right.
Once your television campaign is flattened out, you know, is that the time to add digital? The GRP is just not going to tell you those really crucial insights that you need about managing the campaign.
And how does it address format? Like a sight, sound, motion, rich media unit versus a static display, 300 by 250 or a leaderboard. Like, how do you get there? Because you got one format on television, right? Because EBIF has failed, so it's pretty much one way. It's broadcast.
Right. Well, I just want to say something. I don't think EBIF really failed, but that's another entirely different conversation.
I think you're right. You forgive me for painting a broad brushstroke. I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, that a very tough initiative, and we do have some useful stuff that came out of that. So that's a good thing. Well, the question is really equivalency, right? Is an online video advertisement according to the marketplace, maybe has a little higher value than a 30-second television spot because people are paying more for it in general. A banner ad may have less value. You need more banner ads in order to accumulate the same effect as a 30-second television spot. These things are measurable. We comScore measured this as part of a research paper for the Advertising Research Foundation, the ARF. And we actually won Best Paper for that because it was a very unique way. We said, well, what is the equivalency? How many banner ads do you need to have the equivalent impact of a 30-second spot? And those are the kinds of questions.
And that probably varies by audience, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Because I would assume a millennial demographic probably has the ability to consume more data than boomers, and
absolutely, and it's going to have an impact by the timing of the campaign. We want to do more with the timing of our advertising campaigns. We want to be able to achieve our goals integrating TV and online video, and right now the systems aren't really in place that allow us to do that.
So, putting on the hat of a media agency right now, right? Sort of one of the reasons we're here. And let's make the assumption that we have an integrated buying team through the line, right? What advice do you give them? It's panacea, I know.
Okay, wow.
All right.
We really don't have that.
I know, but let's dissect the problem and make it bite-sized. So where do you start with multi-platform measurement?
I think we really start with the planning process, right?
Okay.
I probably would start a little bit further up the food chain there because at planning, at some level, you are doing integrated media planning with all of the platforms and you're making your dollar allocations. But then when it comes to making real choices, that's where things begin to get siloed. And in the buying process, things are very, very siloed. So, I think it's realistic for us to tackle the media planning process and say, okay, once we get down to making our choices about, specific websites or online video properties and television programs, once we want to get to scenario planning, let's take the campaign, let's overlay it on the multiple media, by the way, including mobile and tablet, and say, okay, how does that differentially deliver reach and frequency against my target audience? That's where I see the first step in really integrating is at this kind of deeper level of media planning.
So you're advocating media mix modeling, basically, in order to be able to sort of make sure that you can tackle cross-platform.
No, not at all. I mean, we've been using marketing mix modeling for over a decade, 2 decades now. And one of my clients at Kraft said, we've taken marketing mix modeling about as far as it can go. And what a lot of these initiatives that are out there are about what's called single source research. That is exposure to media, purchase behavior, action behavior across platform captured from the same people, right? Single source research is absolutely foundational for us to figure out what to do across platforms. I mean, we have, just to get really simplistic, but this is what a lot of systems use. You know, we've probably all heard of random duplication. And that's a way of you mathematically joining two independent data sets. And you're really just making a guess as to what that duplicated audience is. The only way to truly discover what the duplication is between two media assets, whether it's a TV show, an online video, an advertising campaign, is to measure it at some level as a single source. And that is something that comScore is really embracing, is not only single source from a consumer panel point of view, but a single source from a census data point of view, where we're making observations in the data that create single source platforms that comprise millions of households and millions of people, not just 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 people. And believe me, to measure the digital platforms, you need census level data. I mean, when we look at our research, comScore has a panel of 1 million consumers in the US and another 1 million outside the US, and that's not big enough to measure the digital world. So on top of that, we lay in what's called, what we refer to as census-based data, and that's where our clients incorporate a comScore tag in their websites and their online videos, and that gives us the census of what's going on. So it's really a combination of those two methods that gets you to, adequate measurement in the digital space, excellent measurement in the digital space.